Previously on Deltarune.
You acknowledge the possibility of pain and seizure. Am I gonna have to sign a waiver for this? Jeez. There are CDs under the bed. Classical, jazz, religious, ska. I mean, I want it. It's a book of hymns. Interesting. Alright, this... I just see a whole bunch of snout sticking out of a big tuft of messy hair. Am I late? No, you see it flickering. The only light you see. By second nature, you reach out and... Okay. So I did get to name my file at least. Okay. The UI is different now. What is this? Okay, I trust you, Toby. Let's see what this is. What's going on here? Chris Woodblade. The pencil's now wood. This is like a... Looks like a traditional RPG now. Level 1 human. Body contains a human soul. So this is the battle system, huh? Lancer busts in. Okay. A-S-R-I... Yeah, that's just... It's an anagram of Asriel, and he looks like he could be a goat. But I'm not sure because he's wearing shoes and the goats in Undertale don't wear shoes, so I don't know. Ral say the Lonely Prince is now your ally. The power of the power of fluffy boys shines within you. The power of fluffy boys shines within you. Okay. Let's try fighting. Wow, Chris, that was an amazing... While I was editing together this highlight reel of my playthrough of Deltarune Chapter 1, I realized, as I was editing, the implications of Ralze saying that Chris did an amazing physical attack and asking if he'd ever done that before. I never thought of him saying that in the context of the last moments of Chapter 1, where we see Chris pull out a knife, implying he's some kind of covert serial killer. And just now, I considered that... Did they ever actually specifically say why Noel's father was in the hospital? Did Chris attack Noel's father and that's why he's in the hospital in the first place? I wish I had my webcam on the second I realized this, because I actually covered my mouth and gasped oh my gosh. And I really don't go into Deltarune or Undertale iceberg videos or conspiracy or theory videos, so I really just put all this together on my own, and I'm very interested in where this is going. It makes me all the more excited for Chapter 2, which I am 100% spoiler free on. So let's continue with the recap reel. Why does the faces on this character, why are they so... Why is it so cute? Why is it so adorable? One of the most cutesy characters I've found in a game in a while. And the fact that his face isn't defined by, it's just negative space with with glasses, little dot eyes, and a smile you can't even see most of. I don't know, it's just very interesting design. Look at that face. Oh my gosh. I mean, he made a dummy of himself, and now he's asking me to hug it. I feel kind of sad. You can hug the dummy, or you can hug Ralse. Okay. You hug Ralse. Okay, Chris. I don't think, this is what you're supposed to be doing. But... I'm gonna interpret that as a friendly platonic hug. I'm sure there've probably been fanfics written on that one little scene alone. Hug Ralse. You hug Ralse. Chris, are you trying to, ask me to give you a tutorial on hugging? Okay, let's keep going. I don't know what this voice I'm giving him is, excuse me. Whatever it is, I can't do a voice that justifies how, this character. You hug Ralse. I've never hugged anyone before. Besides the dummy to test it out. so I don't know anything about it, sorry. I suppose you're the one teaching me. Oh boy. Okay, one more. I think this is left. Grelze? Yeah, so that's the power of fluffy boys once again shining within us. I'm sorry. What? Chris, Susie, okay. I thought it was really weird. That his face was the only face in color in these little profile pictures for the dialogue, and he was the only face in color, and the only face that was like defined by negative space. Alright, great to see you again. Yeah, it's real nice, isn't it? Especially considering I've never met... Sans, you know. Why, getting want to know better? My mom? Your mother, huh? Too late. I already befriended your mom last night. Oh dear. Okay. Alright, here's the lizard kid who was in high school, and he's got a cross around his neck. I want to know, I'm genuinely fascinated by all these religious references in the game. Yo, Chris, you survived... Because before we only saw him from behind, so we didn't see that he had a cross around his neck. You need to respect people's space a bit. I think she basically died one-on-one. I swear your family went to church, like, every single day that week. Okay, more and more. This is so fascinating. All these church references, these religious references. Okay. Alright, Bunny, what you gotta say? Hey there, I haven't seen you in a while, hun. I remember back on Sundays after service. Okay, there's this really strong emphasis on attending church and religion. And it's very interesting to me. I want to see what they're getting at with this. Like, okay. I remember back on Sundays after service, you and your family would come in and order the special. Of course, things happened, and then y'all stopped coming together. Oh. Okay. What's going on at this church? Because there have been a number of references in, like, the beginning when we were in Asriel's room. There are a few references to, like, hymns and religious books and stuff. Okay, I want to talk... Okay, what religion or is being practiced in this church? Chris, what a pleasant surprise to see you here, and on a school day. There must be a reason that you came here at such a time. I, Father Alvin, implore you, if you have anything weighing down your mind, please speak. Fruit juice or nothing? Fruit juice. Chris, if you want some of our sick fruit juice, you should come to our service. Our choir sounds a bit thinner since your brother went away. Chris, it would be wonderful if you would sing with us. Or even participated to any extent, instead of just trying to drink the fruit juice. Okay, so this is... Chris, what a pleasant surprise. Hi, Father Alvin. Nothing. I understand. I hope in time you may find the words you seek. Let the angel's power light your way. And yeah, so... Okay, so this is getting at a couple of interesting things. Well, first off, they really didn't touch on the idea of any sort of religion or faith in in Undertale. And now we have... I mean... Toriel would seem the type to show up to church every Sunday with her neat little well-behaved family, and the overachiever's son, participating in every social activity he seems to be able to get his hands on, would probably participate in the church choir, you know? So, and the church has a huge potential for world building, so I'm very interested in it, but it seems like if we're going to get any sort of answers along those lines, they'll come later on. What's going to happen? Okay. What's going on in bed? Is he got thrown out of bed by someone or something? What's going on here? Is he possessed? What's going on here? Okay, is he possessed? What the heck? What the butt? What? He has a knife? Are you Kara? What is... Okay.
When the light is running low and the shadows start to grow and the places that you know seem like fantasy, there's a light inside your soul that's still shining in the cold.
What?
The truth, the promise in our heart.
Whoa.
Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark.
I don't know what to say. Hey, it's me, H, in the present, and since there's really nothing too important about my face for this, I'm just gonna go ahead and record it as audio with some gameplay of my playthrough of Deltarune Chapter 1 as background. For the actual playthrough of Deltarune Chapter 2, I will be going back to my face cam. Now, I just wanted to get some of my thoughts, ideas, theories, feelings out of the way about Chapter 1, predictions for Chapter 2. And mind you, I don't get deep. I don't go around reading like iceberg, going around looking at iceberg videos or other people's theory videos. It's about a week after Deltarune Chapter 2 came out. I've remained spoiler free on it. I haven't even seen really any screenshots or anything, so I'm pretty fresh on this, and I haven't. So if I say a theory that's similar to someone else's, most of these theories are things I've came up with just from watching other people's gameplay of their first time through it, and things I've thought of since then. Alright, so first I have a list here I'm reading off of. Okay, so what is the hometown, the sort of real world, so to speak, where Deltarune Chapter 1 begins? We know that hometown is important because Toby Fox said in a Q&A thing he released after Deltarune Chapter 1 came out that a lot of the game's development of Chapter 1 was spent on the hometown area, because if he did not get the hometown area right in Chapter 1, the rest of the game wouldn't work. So the hometown is actually very important. I don't know much more from meta outside of that. I know I mentioned this out loud a few times as I was playing Chapter 1. I was sort of baffled because going into Chapter 1, I didn't know that there was going to be a dark world and everything. And when I started playing the game, as far as I know, the hometown area, as far as I know, that was going to be the whole game. It was going to have more of a general feel, sort of like maybe like Earthbound. But what I was getting at, as mentioned a few times, was that I was sort of confused as to why was there this sort of like suburban school life scenario at the beginning of the game, only for most of the game to take place in this fantasy world. And this is before I even knew that whether or not I'd be going back to the hometown, and if I'd be able to actually play around in it and explore and talk to people, which I was at the very end, which is cool. Because let's take a thing like Felix the Cat, the movie, is a movie about Felix the Cat going to another dimension where there's this crazy fantasy world, but it's like Felix the Cat's own world is a world in which there's a mad scientist and Felix is a talking cat with a magic bag. So why do you need a secondary fantasy world on top of this? And now that I've played through Chapter 1, I'm kind of like, okay, this is... Toby thought this out. I trust you, Toby. Let's go with this. I'm really excited. Now, what is hometown? I think this could end up being, I feel like this might be an illusory or world created by Gaster, or a simulation or something like this. One way or another, Gaster's influence is present from the creepy intro where you're creating a character and then your identity is now saved over Chris's game file once you've saved for the first time in the game. And it's interesting. I just realized this. I just considered this. All of the save files in Deltarune Chapter 1 are located within the Dark World. The ability to save seems to be something unique to Dark World, and for those who maybe for some reason aren't familiar, the ability to save in the Toby Fox universe is something that's treated as an actual thing that exists within the universe, not just a mechanic of the game. And so the fact that the ability to save only exists in the Dark World is interesting. But aside from that, now, I don't. I wonder, because Gaster's influence, we created a character, that is then implied to be possessing Chris in both the real world or the light world. I'm just going to call it the real world, and in the Dark World, that he then rips that soul out of his body at the end is implied to be like a nocturnal secret serial killer or something like that. But we'll get into that later. But the light world, the Dark World, somewhere Gaster's presence is here. There's a creepy bunker on the edge of town where you can hear like Gaster's theme slow down like 1,000,000% or something. 666%, I think, is what Toby did. So somehow this has something to do with Gaster. I don't know if this is... Toby did say, on a meta level, he said, whatever happened in Undertale, however you left that game world, it's still there. It's still... That game world is how you left it, depending on however you played. Now, what I'm interested in is the Deltarune universe. Is this going to be a prequel? A sequel? One way or another, it is a parallel universe. And what I'm interested in is this the original universe, and it comes out by the end of this that we learn the Deltarune is actually the alternate reality that was split off from this dimension as some result of something that happens between the Light World and Dark World in the Deltarune games as we continue through each chapter. Now, what is the Dark World? It's interesting because I was saying, like, what if Hometown is just some kind of simulation created by Gaster to test some kind of theory or do an experiment? But then the Dark World has history which seems to go back very, very far. Now, it's possible that this world was created spontaneously and the people have pre-existing history sort of programmed into them. But it would also... implies that this world, the Dark World, is very old. Maybe even predates the Light World. And that there's a history in which the people living in the Light World, in Chris's world, in the daytime, hometown area... we used to move between worlds, the Light World and the Dark World, and then left the darkness behind at some point. Therefore, the King of Spades crusade against the Dark World. Now talking about characters now. No, actually, I want to talk a little bit more about the Dark World. The Dark World, it seems to be that passages to the Dark World create or generate a world based on wherever you are in the Light World. Because when they were... Well, first off, that disused classroom they were in at the end of the game that Chris and Susie warped back into was not the supply closet. So somehow they ended up in a different room. So it seems that in moving through the Dark World, you also move through the real world, but only in slight distances. It kind of like... in his Dark Materials, spoilers for that if you're not familiar with it, but in his Dark Materials, if you move through one world, you move through other worlds as well. So if you enter in World A, then walk a mile and re-enter. If you're in World A, you enter World B, walk a mile in World B, then go back into World A, you're now a mile away in World A as well. I wonder if that's something like that, but where it's like compressed, where if you move 10 miles in the Dark World, you've only moved like 10 feet in the Light World. It might be something like that, perhaps. That's maybe how they warped. They ended up in a different classroom. But then that disused classroom had, the doll that looked like the shopkeeper. They looked like the cat shopkeeper. It had the checkerboard with the chess pieces on it, and the cards were strewn everywhere. So it seems like different areas in Hometown might transform into different parts of the Dark World. But I wonder if someone were to come in, like the janitor comes in and cleans out that disused classroom, would that affect what would be present in that iteration of the Dark World? So there's lots of... You could go into like Narnia, his Dark Materials, lots of other things that involve moving between worlds, even Digimon, the Digimon Adventure universe. So on to Chris. Chris is now... It's very interesting. Chris is now sort of a dual character. Because we're now dealing with the character that existed prior to us playing the game, who is implied to have been antisocial, if not flat out a sociopath, known amongst the town as someone you kind of don't want to deal with if necessary. it's also true that he seems to be the only human we've seen in this world. Other monster characters in Hometown are like, hey, does it hurt to be made of blood? Because monsters are not made of blood. They're made of mostly magic, and their physical element to their being is very minimal, to the point where when they die, they sort of collapse into a pile of dust. And that's another thing. We don't kill any of the beings in the Dark World in those battles. At the most, we just knock them off the screen, Smash Brothers style, but we do not actually kill them. And in Undertale, like, when you defeat a monster by battling them, they're very explicitly killed. And that does not happen even if you play violently in Deltarune. Now, another thing, I guess this is more getting back into the Dark World, but are Darkeners monsters, or are they not? That's another interesting question that we need to have answered. I can't say, like, now we're going into Chapter 2, presumably playing as Chris, and we don't know what Chris is, if we can trust him. We seem to be, as players, the one that is possessing Chris through that soul that he rips out of his body at the end of the game and locks in that cage, which seems to be a nightly event, apparently. This may be something he does instead of sleeping, like a werewolf transformation kind of thing, where everything that Chris does in the game is done because of our interference with him. And when he rips that soul out of his body, you can move the soul around in the cage while Chris pulls out the knife and is implied to go out on a killing spree or something. And Chris, the only human we see, I mean, this could be a world where maybe there was a war between humans and monsters, and the monsters won instead, so the humans are rare now. He was adopted by the Dreamer family, by Asgore and Toriel, and raised as the brother of Chris, the brother of Asriel, and we'll get into Asriel. I guess might as well get into Asriel a bit now. To finish up on Chris, I think we're playing as the disembodied soul that is the agent or follower of W.D. Gaster that's possessing Chris for some reason, and then maybe at night, whatever force that's binding that alien presence to Chris is weakened, so he's able to rip it out and lock it away during the night, perhaps. We'll get into Asriel. Asriel, we don't see him. We hear of his presence in the light world. Everyone in town seems to know Asriel. He seems to be someone that everyone loves. He died at the age of maybe 10 in maybe like 20 or 30 years or more before the events of Undertale. But in Deltarune, Asriel is mentioned by Toriel and others as having graduated high school and went off to college. So he's in another town right now, which establishes that there's some kind of external world beyond Hometown, not that just like Hometown's kind of just this void or this sort of isolated existence, sort of like spoilers for Final Fantasy X, like the city of Xanarkand in Final Fantasy X, where it's just sort of this isolated world and there's no sort of universe beyond it, and no one inside that universe, that's false city, is aware that that their world is sort of fake. But now getting into Ralze. Ralze, obvious anagram of Asriel. I figured that out as I was playing. Now, who is Ralze? It says that he's a prince of the dark. Who made him a prince? Who are his parents? Are his parents of royal lineage? Why is he a prince of the dark world? And there also is this monarchy of the cards the card kings that live in the castle, who were all, I guess, overthrown by the King of Spades at the behest of the knight, who we don't know much about. Ralze, at the end of the game, most of the game he's black. At the end, he takes off his hat and reveals that the hat, I guess, casts a shadow over his face or something. He was actually white all along, making him look even more like Asriel, who was a white goat in Undertale, and then presumably is in Deltarune as well, if they're even separate characters, which we don't really know. Now, he wore that hat, it disguised his face, made him appear to have black fur. He actually has white fur. He wears shoes on his feet, which I guess was to help disguise the fact that he was actually white, like white-furred. But when I saw Asriel Ralze at the beginning of the game, I was like, oh, he looks like a goat from Undertale, but goats in Undertale, because some monsters in Undertale wear shoes and some don't. It seems to be the same thing in Deltarune, in the Hometown. Some of the monsters wear shoes, some of them don't, at least from what I remember. Now, I thought Asriel wearing shoes, maybe he's not, Ralsei wearing shoes, maybe he's not a goat, because the goats in Undertale didn't wear shoes. They sort of had just big, fluffy, sort of cartoon paw feet, sort of like Snoopy, or whatever. Snoopy from Charlie Brown. Now, I wonder if now that they're not concealing that he's actually a white furred and not black furred, if they're going to have him wearing shoes. I'm just anything that makes them different or similar to the characters that we met in Undertale. I'm just going to take note of. Now, I actually do kind of, and I'm interested to see if they'll have Ralsei appear in shadow or have his actual color be apparent. I liked his design in Deltarune Chapter 1, where you could see, his face was defined by negative space, and I liked the color scheme on him. So I really kind of gonna, if he's white furred in this one, I'm gonna miss the original look he had. But, he's such an adorable character. He's one of my favorite characters in Deltarune and in the Undertale universe in general. Or Undertale metaverse. We have no idea what's going on quite with that yet. And I kind of liked Ralsei's walk cycle with those little boots he was wearing in the first chapter. So if he's not wearing the boots anymore, that's unfortunate. But whatever. Ralsei is the fluffiest boy. He's going to be adorable no matter what. Now, he was implied to have a crush on Chris in Chapter 1. Especially in the training scene, the fighting tutorial scene. Now that based on the end of Chapter 1, I do not want Chris to be anywhere near Ralsei, and I'm very concerned for the safety of anyone who is in contact with Chris at this point. Now, Noel, the reindeer girl who we met in the classroom in Chapter 1, seemed like she was going to be a minor character. But based on the end, it seems like of all the characters in Hometown who did not also appear in Undertale, Noel seems to have gotten the most development. Between the hospital scene at the end and the gate scene at the end, she has a lot of development. The gate scene and the tiny bit of the dialogue in the classroom, which you really don't piece together at the time, but in hindsight, seems to imply that Noel has a crush on Susie, which is interesting. And adorable. I'm not, tend to stay away from shipping culture, but if Noel, it'll be interesting to see where it goes with that. I think in terms of what the story could tell, and the way Toby Fox has written sort of, lighthearted romance stuff, that Noel and Susie could make for some interesting interactions and situations and whatever. Now, Susie having a Noel having a hospitalized parent that they visit after school in the hospital, that's something that touches me very personally. I'm not going to get deeper into that, but that's a thing that further endears me to Noel and has me keeping an eye out on her. Now, Noel's dad being hospitalized, when I was going through the ending, I really kind of just got the impression that he was sick with a disease or something, but I'm thinking of it. Did they ever specify why Noel's father was hospitalized? And I realized while I was editing together the clip compilation thing at the beginning of this video that, wait a second, what if Noel's father was attacked by Chris during one of his implied homicidal rampages? And maybe that's why Noel's father is in the hospital? And I really do expect Noel to have a bigger role in this game, whether she actually joins the party and comes to the Dark World with us or not. One way or another, there seem to be setting up a lot of the emotional fabric of the Hometown area really does seem to revolve a lot around Noel. So if Chris ends up being the person responsible for having attacked Noel's father, that could make for Toby Fox to work a lot of really insidious mischief in the hearts of the players. Now, the last thing I'll mention is the Knight. I don't think there's an... Oh, yeah, okay, so I mentioned the Knight already. I talked about him. The Knight mentioned by the King of Spades has the ability to pull fountains out of the ground. Fountains in addition to the one fountain that is supposed to exist, the one near Ralsei's castle. In the abandoned town. And so this knight appeared into the Dark World from an unknown origin The fact that the King of Spades pledges allegiance to the knight and not the other way around is very interesting. You'd think it would be the other way around. I don't think we're going to learn too much more about this knight in this game. I think the knight will end up being the overarching villain of Deltarune, possibly. But we don't know about him yet, enough about him yet. I think we'll get a little more info, but not anything radically significant in Chapter 2. I know his motivation is to create more fountains, kind of like how the Digimon Emperor was going around creating dark spires, or control spires, or dark towers in the Digimon Adventure Season 2. Then the dark fountains remind me of that. Now, there's only supposed to be the one fountain at Ralsei's castle, and he's creating more of them, which is disturbing the balance between light and dark. So I'm guessing how that the knight is going to create another artificial dark fountain, and that's going to cause our fun gang to have to go back into the dark world to reseal the fountain and restore balance. One other thing that I'll comment on is I noticed from the very beginning of the game, before you even left Toriel's house, that there was this interesting emphasis on religious activity of prayer books and hymn books, religious music CDs under Asriel's bed, and around town, a monster kid, if that's supposed to be the monster kid from Undertale, as a teenager. You see him at the beginning of the game. His back is to you. At the end of the game, he has a cross around his neck. You find out. And then characters talk about, many characters talk about, back when you and your family used to go to church every Sunday, and that girl kissed Asriel, and your mom took him to church every day for a week, and all this stuff about church. Then you go to the church, and it's implied that you could ask about what the game calls fruit juice, which I think is intended to be communion wine, or wine that's intended to be used in some sort of religious ceremony, and I think they just call it fruit juice so that the game doesn't get a rating bump for mentions of alcohol consumption. And he's talking about how Chris would just try to drink all of the quote fruit juice and not really participate in the service otherwise, implying that the weird sociopathic normal Chris before the game started would just try to get drunk on communion wine or something to that effect. And Father Alvin, the priest that we talked to, is the one who gives you that interaction. I'm just interested, what religion is being practiced at this church? There are mentions of, the angel, an angel being capitalized. There are also mentions of, quote, the angel in Undertale with the old snapping turtle shopkeeper, I think his name is Gerson, and talks about the Deltarune symbol itself. And he mentions the angel, and I guess the angel I took at the time, I think I knew of Asriel's existence, but not much detail. I think Asriel's mentioned before the end of the game itself, but I thought the angel was referring to Asriel, but it could be something entirely different now. And I know, looking through the lore, the story Ralsei tells you in the Dark World, talk about saving the world from the angel's heaven or something to that effect. So could they be practicing a religion that turns out to have darker undertones than they're aware of, that they just think it's a sort of just a benign belief that it actually has something sinister secretly controlling it in the background? So we're going to see about that as well. Those are all my theories. That's all my thoughts and theories, really, about Chapter 2. So I hope you join me for the actual Let's Play, and thank you very much for watching.